Hello, I'm Rhonda Ryder, author of Delicious Alignment, How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction. Welcome to the Delicious Alignment podcast. I'm very excited to bring a special episode to you today with one of my very own coaching clients, Jennie Winter. Jennie's story captivated me so much during our first coaching session, where she wanted me to help her heal her relationship with food and her body. You see, Jennie was in what many call a weight loss cult for 10 years. In fact, HBO Max made a docuseries about the organization in 2021 and 2022 called The Way Down: God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. The Way Down was founded in the controversial Remnant Fellowship, a weight loss-based Christian church in Tennessee. In this interview, you will hear Jennie speak about her experience of being terrified to eat anything for fear of going to hell. Yes, you heard that right. Fear of going to hell. And also fear of losing her husband and her children if she didn't get thin. Jennie explains everything in the interview. She talks about how she was encouraged to starve herself until she did lose all the weight they thought she should lose. You'll also hear Jennie share how she finally broke away from the movement after 10 years and how she learned about the law of attraction and the new journey she's on now, which includes loving her body, celebrating her food, and yes, releasing pounds without stress, anxiety, and shame. Let's get started. Hello, Jennie.
Hi.
Hi. So great to be with you here today. And I'm really, first of all, I just want to thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I'm so excited about hearing even more about your story. I know that we've talked a lot about it, but I have more questions, and that'll just organically come out as we speak. So let's start with this whole thing about the Way Down and this movement. And it is actually on HBO Max called. Yeah. And have you watched it?
I have, yeah. Our whole family watched together.
The whole family watched it together. Yeah, interesting. So it's called this series. It's called the Way Down. It's an HBO Max original, and it's actually, the whole title is The Way Down: God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. And also, I just checked on Amazon, and it's still available. People can still buy this book. Well,
really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a little unsettling, but we do have free speech in this country, so we might appreciate that. And as you know, I try not to promote diet culture, but this is definitely all about diet culture. Yeah. And so today you're going to talk to me about your experience with this program, and then how you found Abraham, and then how you found me, Delicious Alignment, and all that good stuff. But first, I want to find out more. Can you tell me, like, what's your age range right now, if you don't mind me asking? You
I'm 43.
43. Yeah. And you look, if you're listening to the podcast, she looks very, very young. And I know you have 6 children, and I just found out just in the pre-chat that you gave birth to all 6 children naturally with no drugs. So my opinion of you has already gone up like 10 levels.
That's funny.
That is just amazing. Okay, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first, I want to go into, I'd like to know, Jennie, how you found Gwen's her name, Gwen Shamblin, who has since died, right? She died last year at 66 years old in a plane crash with her husband. But before that, she was running this this group out of the Remnant Fellowship Church, and but as I understand, you found it, and you didn't actually physically go to the church. So anyway, I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us the story.
Okay. So when I had my first child, I gained, I think, like 75 pounds within like the first 2 months of having her. And so I was kind of desperately looking for some way to lose weight. And a friend of mine at church gave me the Way Down book. And I read it, and it seemed, I've since gone back and read it. So I read it completely different the first time. But the first time I read it, it seemed very simple. Like basically, just wait till you're hungry to eat. And then when you're not hungry anymore, stop eating. And if there's any other reason that you want to eat, then just pray about it. Or, like just focus on God instead of wanting to eat. And so that was kind of my first experience with it, was the book. And, I lost like, I don't know, 50 pounds in the first couple months. Like, I remember just sitting on the floor, like crying because I wanted to eat, but I needed to wait for that like growl. And so then fast forward probably like 8 years or so, I kind of, it was in the back of my mind, but I didn't really, I wasn't like following it or anything. And I had gotten remarried after my divorce, and my husband was mentioning that I was gaining weight and I needed to go on a diet. And I was like, oh, wait, we don't diet. Dieting is bad. I remember Gwen Shamblin said, all you have to do is this. So I went online, and she had like courses you could take. And so I went over to this lady's house, like probably half an hour from me, and took this course that was not really about weight at all. It was really like, basically, if you loved God and you wanted to go to heaven, you needed to stop eating. And, I was so desperate. Yeah. Like the less you ate, the closer to God you were.
Yeah.
And so, just like 2 or 3 bites. If you got a growl, wait for the next growl, and then 2 or 3 bites, and then don't eat again until
2 or 3 bites.
Yeah.
That's if you got a little hungry, if you got a growl, 2 or 3 bites. 2 or 3 bites.
Yeah. Everything was counted in bites.
That's amazing. So not even like, you're not even encouraged to have a full meal or eat until you're satisfied. So it's like 2 or 3 little bites.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just enough to get the growl to go away.
Just enough to get the growl to go away. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost like implanting this idea that, I mean, not almost, it is like food is bad.
Yeah. Eating is just a complete sign of weakness. Like you do not love God. You don't trust God to take care of you, and so I think for me, like in my mind, it was like, I was raised in a really strict religion, like with Christianity. So it was like, oh, that makes sense. If I don't want to disappoint God, so I don't want to eat, I'll eat as little as I can. And then I was recruited, is the best way to describe it, into the church. People talk about love bombing. That is 100% what they do. Yeah, they invited me down to Tennessee, and when I got there was like gifts everywhere for me, and everyone in the church threw a party for me to arrive, and we're just like, oh, we're so excited that you're here. And it was definitely what you hear about love bombing.
So that was the church, the Remnant Fellowship in Tennessee, that you actually went there, and and they love bombed you. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So just to recap, so you found out you had your first child, and then you gained the 75 pounds, and you found this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you followed it. And did you lose some weight there, or?
Yeah, I lost about 50 pounds.
Yes. And then in 8 years, you didn't necessarily follow it.
Right.
Right. You weren't really into it that much, but then you were divorced and got remarried. And then your husband said he would like you to lose some weight.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
I remembered.
and
Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay. Great. So continue on.
So then we ended up joining the church at that time.
So we meaning
My whole family, like my husband and I. Oh, I guess, and just my daughter. Yeah.
even though you didn't live in Tennessee, you lived in Indiana.
Right. So what they did was they webcasted like the service every week.
Right. Okay.
And so it was all over the whole world were the people that went there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and your family would watch the services, the Sunday
Yeah.
service, or yeah.
Yeah. And most of the services or the sermons were about like how if you loved God, you would give up anything, basically give up anything that was special to you. If it was important to you, it was considered what they called an idol, and you worshiped an idol and you were an adulteress. And that's what they called you. Like if you ate when you weren't hungry, then you were an adulterer. Is that how you, I think that's how you say that, an adulterer. Like basically you're having an affair on God with food because it's an idol. And so it's very, very, very shame based. Like,
yes. Yes.
yeah. And so it just, and then if you didn't lose weight fast enough, which I did not, they, give you like an accountability partner. And I had one of those who basically told me I needed to fast until I lost all my weight, which, I had well over 100 pounds to lose. So I would have fasted for a really long time. And I did, end up losing probably well over 100 pounds within a 7 or 8 month period.
So they didn't want you to eat for like that. How long?
Until I had no more weight.
So like not eat anything?
Yeah. So I was eating probably I kept the log that I had to keep and turn in every morning. And I was eating probably 3 to 5 bites of food a day.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we're talking like 3 chips, like that, small amounts of food for that period of time. And that wasn't fast enough weight loss. And that's when they told me, you need to just fast until, and, it was like daily or weekly calls where they were telling me like, God's going to take your children away from you. He's going to kill your children. God's going to take your husband and give him to someone else, which after watching the documentary, apparently they actually did that to people. So they would take, husbands, and if their wives weren't doing what they're supposed to, they would, financially support the divorce and getting custody of the kids. And they would just immediately like give them a new younger wife.
Wow.
To marry. Yeah.
Wow. And when was this? Like when this is how many years ago?
We joined in 2005, I think in December. So when we were in until the very beginning of 2015.
Yeah. You were in it for 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So were your kids also getting involved in the whole weight loss thing, like the whole mentality?
No, I think there was a part of me that just knew it was, excuse me, not okay. So I really shielded my kids from it.
Yeah. So
as much as I could.
Yeah. Not that, I mean, if you think that this is good, your intentions are good. I'm not saying that would,
right.
That you would have done anything wrong. It's you think you're doing something good, and when we know better, we do better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, it was also taught like basically you're born listening to your body with hunger and fullness.
Yeah.
So like with kids, it was just like, well, they already know what they're doing. Just leave them, let them eat whatever they want, whenever they want.
Yeah.
And they'll be fine. So, like.
True. I agree with that.
Yeah. So unless the kids like were overweight or something, they just pretty much didn't put that on the kids.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for that, at least.
Yeah.
And so now tell me like about this whole 10-year period. What, like looking back now, what do you think, what is your viewpoint? Like what happened over this 10-year period, and and how do you perceive it all now? Like continue on with the story.
Yeah, I think, I spent basically 10 years terrified of eating, of my children dying, of doing anything wrong, like anything that bad happened, then it was your fault because you didn't, because you ate too much or something like that. And so it was my every waking thought. Like I'd wake up in the middle of the night stressed about it. It was just constantly trying not to eat. I woke up every morning determined to go a whole day without eating. And for 10 years. So, I mean, you can imagine the wiring that does to your brain.
Right.
And yeah. And I mean, it was to where people would be like cooking and try this. Oh, I can't try that. Like even a taste of something would, make me gain weight or make me disobey God or whatever.
Right. So, so it really developed. I mean, like if you think about it, a lot of us get these beliefs that food is bad, from just the environment which we live in, diet culture. So we are raised, a lot of us are affected by it, let's face it. And then, so this just takes it to the nth degree, like really, really taking that shame about body and weight and food to the millionth degree, really laying it on pretty heavy.
And there was 3 or 4 times a year that we were required to drive to Tennessee for these big lavish parties. And so you'd have to wear like ball gowns and things like that. So, it even amplified it that like, okay, I only have this many months to lose weight before I have to go, like, and everyone's going to see.
Oh my gosh. The pressure.
Yeah.
Just imagine, because I remember putting myself through that kind of pressure, if I was going to an event, everybody's going to see me, and then trying to lose weight, and it would always backfire on me personally, because I would just be trying to restrict myself, and that I would just the opposite effect would happen. So I can't I can't imagine. Actually, I can't imagine that kind of pressure. So this is going on over 10 years. And so in the meanwhile, what's happening? I mean, you're not eating food hardly at all.
Yeah.
You're being trained not to listen to your body, not to just deny yourself to all these restrictions. And how does one even maintain that? So you're on the phone, then I would imagine more than once a week with people.
Yeah.
Like how often are you in contact with you have like coaches or mentors, or what do
you have like an accountability person, but then another level to a cult is they have leaders that basically like people tattle on you, and so then you get calls and you get in trouble from the leaders if you aren't doing what you're supposed to do. And so, it's like all these levels of fear. And so it's not just like, oh, you won't look good in a dress. It's like, well, you're going to hell, Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, you won't look good in that dress. No. Your husband is, we're going to give your husband to a younger wife.
Right.
And you're going to go to hell. Yes. Amazing. And so what's going on with your husband at this time? Is he like involved in all of this, or is he just on board with it, or he's not really like, it's not his thing?
He's just kind of in the background. Like, he thought it was kind of dumb. Like, oh, just eat, you're fine. Like, cause he doesn't like have any problem with my weight or anything like that. So, like when I'm looking back, like probably when we got married, it was probably me complaining about gaining weight. And then he was like, oh, you should go on a diet, more so than him thinking, like, because he doesn't have a problem with my weight. It was probably just like, oh, stop complaining about this and just go on a diet,
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have family gatherings in Indiana where there's food or?
Yeah.
And,
And we weren't supposed to be around our family or like
of
we weren't
course.
supposed to have any friends or family outside of the church. So I would always be afraid like someone would find out that I was like hanging out with my family and I'd get in trouble or something, so, and then there's all this food everywhere that you're not supposed to eat.
Yeah. So that's classic, with the cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Estranging you from your family. So what about when you said they have this lavish party in Tennessee at the fellowship, did they have food there?
They had so much food and it was like fancy, like lamb and, that kind of thing. Like it was really elaborate food. And it was mostly just like the really skinny people were allowed to eat because they had already achieved their, they were allowed to eat now. That was the whole thing. Like once you got skinny and you learned to obey God, then you could eat. So, it was always, or, the children. So the skinny people and the children could eat all the fancy food. And, there wasn't very many overweight people because most of the people, if you were overweight, you weren't allowed to come to the church. You had to stay home so no one saw you.
I'm just, this is a podcast, so I really shouldn't be, I don't want to be speechless, but I'm speechless. It's just, oh my gosh, the shame and it's just, and I really keep coming back to this thing where this is really a mirror reflection of life, with diet culture. And it's just, again, just a complete exaggeration of it, just packaging it in this box of a Christian fellowship, and nothing against the Christian religion at all. This is just a woman that created this program and called it that, and she just happened to be in this kind of a fellowship and background. So okay, all right. Unbelievable. Just, only this, I'm stuck on that. Only they have this lavish party, then this celebration, and only the skinny people are allowed to eat. Who would want to go to that if you weren't like starving yourself?
You'd get in trouble if you didn't go. Yeah.
And so it's really an oxymoron that you get in trouble if you didn't go, but if you weren't skinny, then you'd be admonished for that. So like, stuck in.
Well, in a normal, like you go to a party, you're afraid people are judging you for gaining weight or whatever. Like in this situation, people will come up to you and be like, oh, I see you haven't lost your weight yet. Like, what kind of idols are you holding on to? Or like, they'll call you out like repeatedly through the whole night. Like,
if you've been thinking about coaching with me and how it could help you transform your relationship with your body and food, and yes, even release weight, or if you'd like help with anxiety, depression, self-confidence, money, or health, I'd love to work with you. Our focus in your sessions is always to help you feel better emotionally and float up the emotional scale. You will find that as I calibrate you to feeling better and as you practice alignment during the week, you might be guided to a certain food plan or certain physical activities, and it will feel differently than all those other times because it will be from a place of inspiration, not from a place of desperation, where you are constantly trying to force change. In other words, imagine being inspired to do things you've been wanting to do for years. On the flip side, imagine watching the behavior you don't like falling away without much efforting at all, without a big struggle. This is the way the law of attraction works. I know, like me, you were probably taught that things need to be difficult in order to make progress in any area of your life, but that simply is not true. There is an easier way, and I would love to share that way with you. If this resonates with you, go to deliciousalignment.com/coaching to find out more or to book your coaching sessions with me. I can't wait to meet you. Are you a visual learner? If you are, you will enjoy the video version of my book, Delicious Alignment: How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction. Simply go to deliciousalignment.com/online course to find out more or find the link in the show notes. So did you stop seeing, like, I don't, we have never talked about this in our coaching sessions. Did you stop, like, seeing your family? Do you have family, like, where you?
No, I didn't, just because
you're a little rebel and you're a little rebel side of you. That's good. I'm glad. So you kept seeing your family, but did they say, Jennie, you're not eating, or?
Oh yeah, my mom was so stressed.
Yeah.
Stressed
out. So looking back, what do you think, were some of the, things that ramifications, or like how did it play out in the way you see food, the way and your weight or your health? Like, what do you think? And these are all beliefs anyway. I mean, this is a law of attraction podcast,
right?
We understand that these are all just beliefs, but I'm just curious, like, looking back, how do you think that it all affected you, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now, I see how it was like one belief piled on top of each other. And so, like, there was no good or bad foods in Way Down. Everything was fine as long as you ate within these parameters. And so, like, that made it for me like a blanket. All food is gonna, send you to hell, So it was just this terror of eating, like, just terrified is the best way I can describe it. And knowing what I know now, having that mindset that every morning waking up thinking I'm not going to eat today just wreaked havoc on my body, because I was basically telling my body every morning, I'm going to starve you. You're not going to get any nutrients, and so, like, my hair fell out, it's better, but it's still not come all the way back in. Like, and so I, knowing what I know now, like, I created all of these ailments in my body by telling my body, like, I'm not going to take care of you. No matter what you want, I'm not going to give it to you, and the big thing was to drink diet soda, like, just drink diet soda all the time. I'm like, you'd go to people's houses and their refrigerators would be completely foodless, just all varieties of diet soda, which, I drank diet soda for decades, and it wreaks havoc on your body and your mindset, so, just those kind of things really just wreaked havoc on my body, and just that terrible self-hatred, like, it's so out of alignment with who you really are. So you're constantly in turmoil all day long, because your inner being is like, no, you're perfect. We love you. And, like, then you're saying, no, I'm terrible, So it's like this constant battle, because it's so contradictory to what your inner being is saying,
Yeah. And did you develop some health issues during that time?
Yeah. I mean, I lost a lot of hair, like, basically bald on the top. And I'm trying to think what else,
the diabetes came later, or?
Yeah, the diabetes came later, but I believe that was all from stress, and then the high blood pressure, it's so much stress to constantly have to be worrying about not eating, not doing the thing your body was designed to do, Yeah.
Well, I really thank you for your, generosity in sharing this. So let's move into then what happened. the good.
Yeah. So, I started to learn a little bit of things, because, with being overweight, I stayed really on the sidelines and didn't get close to people. And so I don't think I didn't really know the extent of what kind of craziness was happening in the church. But when I started to hear little things, and I started to feel this like feeling in my inner being, like this is really getting out of hand. And so I started to question things more because, I was sensing something really disturbing was going on, which it was. And, where they were, having people sent away, like, I would just notice like women who start to gain weight, they would just go away. Nobody knew where they went.
Do you
Their
know
best,
where they went?
no, nobody ever knew where they went. Like,
Did they
still
ever
to
come
this
back?
day, no. And so like, but they would like be best friends with everybody, talking to them multiple times a day, have like 3 or 4 children, and then they were just gone. And they, the explanation was they had given over to their sin and left their families. But as a mother, like, women don't just, I mean, some women do, but it's not that common,
Right.
Especially these women who are like really involved with their friends and their family and their kids and stay-at-home moms, and then they would just disappear. And so I just started questioning things, which doesn't go well over in a cult.
Right.
And so I kept like backing out more and more because I was getting in more and more trouble for asking questions and talking to people who had left the church to see what was going on. And so then I don't remember how, but I came across the book by John Gabriel called The Gabriel Method. And he talked about how like your weight can be caused from emotional issues. And, I suffered, abuse as a child. So I was like, wait, like this is completely different. But in the book, he recommended watching the movie The Secret. And so I did watch that, and that's kind of led me into Abraham, which when I first started listening to Abraham, I was like, I shouldn't be listening to this, because as far as Christians are concerned, it's like demonic or whatever, so I was a little nervous, but I really like it just sparked something in me, like life. I don't know how to explain it except for life. I was like, oh, this feels lively, full of life, and this feels right. And so I'd like listen to it in the car when I was by myself and not tell anyone except for my sister who listened to Abraham and stuff. And, so that's kind of how I found Abraham. And then the more I listened, the more I was like, wait, and so we ended up I was just like, okay, we can't do this anymore. This is so far out of alignment of who I want to be, what I believe. And they're so whack. We got to get out of here. So we ended up leaving the church. And then it was like from that moment on, I just took off running into the arms of law of attraction, like, because it felt so right to me.
Yeah. And then how did you find me and Delicious Alignment? What happened there?
I honestly have no idea. I just remember like seeing your book somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah. That's
and then I was like, oh, this is great.
Divine guidance. Divine. Yeah. So because I just remember you've been in the group, in the Facebook group for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I just kept seeing, every once in a while you'd reply to one of my emails and say, I really love this, or something encouraging. And I like,
well, I love it because what I loved about Way Down was this whole concept, like at the very beginning, the whole concept of it doesn't have anything to do with the food. It's just your heart, and so like at the beginning, it was like focus on God or joy or whatever. And so like when I found your book, it was like, oh, this feels right. Like it's not about the food, it's about your alignment. That was just like, oh, this is it right here. So excited about the book. And
and then so you were hanging around for a while, and you got the book, and you would send me these lovely emails every once in a while. And then I remember, must have been last year, you reached out and you got 2 coaching or you said that you won a session with me. So we had that free session. And I think I used the Mallison method. Did I use that
Yeah, you did.
time?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. So what was
Yeah.
that? So, I mean, I have my memories of, the beginning when we first started working together. So,
Hmm.
but I'd love for you to tell me what that first session was like for you. Especially, with the Mallison method and yeah, what that was.
Yeah. Well, I remember you had put out something, somehow there was like a contest or something
Yeah.
to win, and I was like on it, right? I was like, I'm gonna win this, and I was manifesting it, and feeling all the feelings of winning and that kind of thing. And then I did win it, and I loved it. Like I loved like the transformation to go in such a short amount of time from feeling one way to just, as Abraham says, like it felt like getting on a completely different disc, and just all of that, turmoil was basically like washed away, and it felt so much better. So at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, I'm just going to throw everything in, on my business and on my health. And so when you put the special on the packages, then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it, and then do it every week. And you know, I remember coming to you like the first time, like, this is it. In my mind, I was like, it's so overwhelming. Like, there's no way I can ever get out of this. I'm just terrified to eat. Like,
Yeah.
I hate eating. I thought that every day. Like, I hate eating. I wish I could just stop this. Like, but that's like now it feels like looking back on something.
Hmm.
Like, I have to remember that I felt that way because I don't have that feeling anymore. But I
Yeah.
did up until I think we started working together maybe in February.
Mhm.
So, up until February, like that had been 15 years or 20 years of feeling that way,
Yeah.
terrified to eat. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was the first session and you were talking about how you felt bad about eating just some broccoli or something like that. It was some kind
Hmm.
of vegetable. I think it might have
Yeah.
been broccoli. I don't know. But
Yeah.
and I remember saying, so I said you had shame about eating the broccoli. Like you feel like, I guess because I love broccoli so much.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, now you do.
Yeah.
Now you do again. That's awesome. So but I remember, taking you through Gina Mallison's Mallison method, and just seeing that shift. And of course, the first session you have movement and everything, but you had that consistency where you just kept getting
Yeah.
sessions. And but I was just like, oh my gosh, hearing your story and hearing how you felt, terrified about eating broccoli, even
Yeah.
a little bit of broccoli. And so then as I learned more and more about your experience,
Hmm.
I was just like really, it was such an honor to work with you.
Oh,
And yeah, really, really. And so what would you say is different now about your relationship with food, since working with me?
yeah. Um, well, I don't have that terror of eating anymore. I think the biggest thing is that shift from consciously hearing something to it being part of your belief system, that belief that, to go from being terrified of eating to now it's like, I just need to be in alignment. Like where can I find my joy, my happiness, my alignment, and like my big thing is intuition. It's really important to me. I teach on it. Like, so to not be able to use that with my food was also an added stressor. So to be able to let that attachment and that story that food is any kind of problem and let it go and just be like, okay, body, I'm just going to learn to listen to you. Whatever you want is fine. We're going to do this thing. Right. And just,
Mhm.
and not have to make that connection between how much I'm eating, what I'm eating to what number is on the scale, and, just really letting go of all of those outside. This is the biggest thing. I think really letting go of all of the things outside of me that were saying whether I was doing good or bad. Like, oh, the number going down, especially with getting diagnosed with diabetes, then you have like another number, and high blood pressure, you have this other number. And, like you're supposed to count calories and fats and macros. And there's all this like outside numbers that you have to, oh, am I good enough today by what this is saying? And really learning to, to watch in like an hour go from this feeling to this better feeling. It just taught me like, okay, well, now I'm going to eat, or really anything in my life. Where's that better feeling? How can I, and if I have that, as you call it, like a wobble, then I'm like, okay, well, where do I feel this? And how can I shift this into a better feeling? Because once I'm in that better feeling, then I can see everything, like correctly. Like I don't have to be measured by what's the number on the scale. I can be like, did I wake up today excited about my life? And what can I do today that's exciting and fun? And it just helped me shift from that like barometer of shame and guilt to the barometer of, is this exciting? Is this joy? And, when I'm in that place of joy and in that place of excitement, whether it's sitting on my front porch or going shopping at Target, my numbers that are better, So it shifts the thing I wanted to shift without having to focus on the numbers,
Yeah. Yeah. The measuring is really what trips a lot of people up. I mean, some people like to weigh themselves, and I talk about that a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like whatever feels good to you. And then we've got like you said, that, my sugar numbers, and now I've got my, cholesterol numbers, and what I love about the sessions that we've had together is like you will come to a session and you've got maybe, for example, a wobble about it's always usually about, right, the controlling the food. Do I need to control the food, or how you're feeling about your body? And that's common and with everyone that I work with on this topic. And then you would have this a little bit of anxiety about it, and then at the end of the session you really be tuning in and connecting with your inner being, and you getting these incredible downloads and messages about how it's like about follow, like again, you just love that. You love to focus on that, like following my intuition, following what feels good, connecting with my inner being. And you'd have all these amazing downloads, and then but then it would carry on with you during the week, right? And then sometimes it like it dips back. But do you find that it never goes quite as low again, like
definitely
the feeling of shame or anxiety?
Like I said, like, in February I couldn't have even imagined, this is July, so 5 months ago, like I couldn't have even imagined not feeling guilty around food. It's like, the first time I was like, okay, well, now I feel good at the end of this hour. Like, I didn't expect it to carry on. But now 5 months later, I can't even barely remember. I have to think about it to remember what that guilt and that shame around food.
Yeah.
Which is huge. I mean,
it is.
That's huge.
That is huge. I mean, especially with your story. And I think so many people will relate to the story, even though they haven't been in a cult. But in a way, we've been indoctrinated the same way. And that we just haven't been in a quote unquote cult.
Right.
But the same sort of things occurred. And so I'd like to ask you, Jennie, so now tell me, what is your relationship with food like now? Like, are you eating, or like, I get a sense like from conversations we've had, you are really enjoying your broccoli. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I think, I do notice if I start to feel any kind of, oh, I shouldn't be eating this, my, I feel worse. Like my body feels worse when I'm just like, food is delicious. I'm going to eat whatever I feel drawn to or is there, or, however it works out that day, then
Yeah.
it's just, I don't scarf it down. I don't find myself like eating so much that I feel sick. Cause what happens, like we all know from dieting is, when you tell yourself you can't have this, when you do let yourself have it, you eat so much of it because your brain thinks it'll never have it again, where it's like, now it's just food and it just gets to be fun like everything else.
Yeah.
And, like I've really shifted into, if it's not fun and I don't enjoy it, I'm just not going to do it
Yeah.
because it messes up my health. It messes up my well-being. I feel stressed, like, when you're real stressed, you get snippy with people. And, I got a lot of little kids, like they don't need me being snippy with them because I'm worried about eating, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's a big deal to have that piece. My kids get to feel it. It's a big ripple effect.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about your body now and weight loss and all of that? How is that different?
Um, well, what's funny was this morning I was thinking about it and I've lost, I think like 20 pounds since we've worked together, but I didn't even think about it until this morning. So like,
Which is
if there's,
amazing. Which is amazing
yeah,
in itself.
that is amazing
Right?
in
Because
itself.
you're
Yeah.
focusing on like that's
Yeah.
people don't know that's like one of the biggest secrets is to just like take your focus off of it for
Yeah.
so go ahead. So what's
So I just, I try to always pay attention to where's my energy at. So if I feel like, you know, I still have a lot of weight on my body that's extra. So if look in the mirror and I see it, maybe I'm taking my kids swimming or something and I'm like, ugh, then I just quickly, and I'm like, oh, I love you, body, whatever you're doing. Like, I'm just going to take care of you. And it was like, I had this belief before my body was bad and it needed to be punished until it was right. Where now it's like, I love you, body, and I'm just going to take care of you. And I'm not going to judge you by the way you look, depending on how I'm going to take care of you. I'm just going to take care of you and love you. And we're going to do this life together, and when I get on the scale, like I might see a number, but I just imagine, I'm like, oh, okay, well, and I pick a number like maybe 5 or 10 pounds less. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm really excited for when it looks like this. And, eventually it will. And that's what's happened, for these 20 pounds. And I don't focus on it. I don't think about it. I don't try to accomplish it. I just try to be in that really joyful, loving state and loving my body and speaking kindly to it and really just, making sure that it knows that I'm going to take care of it, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So beautifully said. I just,
Thank you.
I mean, from where you were to where you are now, it just, and I'm not taking all the credit by any means. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, but it has been.
yeah,
Yeah.
this journey that you've been on I'm just like blown away. And, I really want to thank you so much for sharing this story because
Yeah.
I believe this is going to really help a lot of people. And just knowing that this is possible, like this,
Yeah.
we don't have to live in this shame about our bodies, and we can learn how
Right.
to love our bodies. And um,
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks says it's supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be fun, and anything that's like forcing or uh, efforting that
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, we cannot. There's a
Doesn't work.
different way. There's a different way,
Yeah.
and you are truly, truly modeling that for us all. And yeah, having said that, I know that you also work with people empowering women, so I just want to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can find you, maybe say a little bit
Okay.
about what it is that you do or what it is you want to do more of. And because I know
Yeah.
you're helping a lot of women as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I did want to, before I say this, I did want to mention this if anyone was considering working with you, was one of my favorite things is coming into it. It's like going on a call with someone who sees your wholeness. Like I always felt that from you, like with every call, it wasn't like, you know, well, let's see what's going wrong. It's like, I see your wholeness. How can I help you tap into that? And it's such a gentle, you have such a gentle, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like it's like being in a little cocoon of happiness. And, it's just all those fears of like, oh, I'm silly for thinking this or feeling this way, just kind of go out the window in your energy. And I really, that was one of my favorite things about each session.
Oh.
So yeah, I did want to add that in there. But so what I do is I help women tap into and master their intuition, because I believe that is our inner guidance, is like our stepping stones to the life that we dream of. And, I know like the law of attraction teaches us to, decide what we want and ask it of the universe. And I feel like our intuition is the roadmap that takes us straight, almost past everything we want to things we could never even dream possible. And so that is my passion, to teach women how to tap into that intuition. And there's so much healing that comes from that, I used to just be a healer, and I used to help people with like the thing, help mostly with trauma from their childhood. But the thing that I found is when you tap into your intuition and into your body, like your body naturally leads you to these beautiful places where all of that trauma can just release, because your body was meant to do that. So when you can do that, and that creates that ease, and it just releases easily. And I mean, isn't that what we all want? Everything to just be easy. And I think that is how life is supposed to be. So that's what I help women do. Just let life be easy, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I just got like a little blip, like Mallison coach on the way. Mallison,
Yeah.
I totally see you doing this. Oh my gosh. Imagine how many more women you could help with your experience. I mean, in this topic alone, but I know you work with all different topics.
Yeah.
So how can people find you?
You can go to any social media, pretty much just Instagram and Facebook is my main. At I am Jennie Winter. I do a little TikTok sometimes, and then my it's Jennie, and then Winter, like the season.
Yeah.
And then it's just JennieWinter.com.
Is your website, JennieWinter.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, really, again, you are such an inspiration. And I learned even more about your story today. So thank you for being
so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Jennie Winter. You can connect with Jennie at her website, JennieWinter.com, and that is spelled Jennie, Jennie, Winter, as the season, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Jennie.Bainwinter, and that is Jennie.BAINWINTER, and on Instagram at I am Jennie Winter. Make sure to join me and thousands of other delicious aligners in my Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/delicious alignment. Okay, again, find all the links mentioned in this podcast at deliciousalignment.com/podcast. Also, I want to let you know that I've got wonderful guests for you in the coming months with people who have used the law of attraction to learn how to love their bodies and their food, as well as attract more health and happiness into their lives. August is the month of the Karens. I've got 2 Karens lined up next. One is my good friend Karen Money Williams, Law of Attraction author and founder of the Facebook group Abraham Fun, and the other is Karen Laurie, author of Chronic Pleasure, How to Use the Law of Attraction to Transform Fatigue and Pain into Vibrant Energy. Do you know someone who could benefit from the Delicious Alignment message? If so, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast on Instagram, Facebook, or texting the link to a friend who could benefit from getting in on this conversation. Thanks again for listening. I love hearing how this podcast is making a difference in your life. Till next time, love your body, love your food, and love your life.